This is American Dreams, a program where we interview thought leaders and entrepreneurs and bring their ideas to you in real-world context. Welcome to American Dreams. Our guest today is Evan Ryan. Evan, welcome to today's show.
Thanks for having me.
You know, I know you through Strategic Coach, which is a common program directed by Dan Sullivan, who has done this for many, many years. And in one of our breakout sessions, we had the opportunity to get to know each other. And as such, I invited you to join us today. So for the listeners, Evan, can you tell us about your background, how you got to where you are today, your journey in life?
Yeah, so I really come from a family of entrepreneurs, and that's both people who started their own businesses and grew their own businesses, and it's also people who just simply have an entrepreneurial mindset. There are people who see the world a little bit differently. They really value individualization and kind of becoming your own person and discovering who you are and embracing that. And so it was really kind of a welcoming environment toward my becoming my best self. So I'm really grateful to my parents, to my aunts and uncles, to my grandparents, who wanted me to just become me without any judgment and without any fear. And so I was able to do that through high school. I was, I think, the only person in my high school who both played football and was in the theater. I went to Ohio State for undergrad, had a wonderful time as a Buckeye, studied neuroscience while I was there and did some nonprofit work there. And now I'm just so excited to be running an AI company where we help entrepreneurs succeed faster. We help build automations that really help businesses grow and scale much quicker than they could have.
You know, this is a big, fast-growing area in the world of artificial intelligence, and it right now has a pretty broad definition or community. So specifically, when you help companies with AI, you know, let's first maybe look at what type of company, one, and second, how do they get the most value out of the service that you provide?
Yeah, so let's start by just defining what AI is, or artificial intelligence. You know, there are a lot of different terms, and if you go read all the forums and all the different news articles, they'll all define AI differently. They'll talk about neural nets and machine learning and deep learning and all sorts of crazy stuff. And so I think it's really nice to just start with a really easy to understand definition of AI. Artificial intelligence is quite simply data that does a task. So right now we have people that do tasks, and in some places you have robots that do tasks, and jobs get done, things get done. Well, what if a computer could do a task for you? What if an Excel spreadsheet could do a task for you? Or an internet browser could do a task for you? Zoom does a great job doing a task in allowing you to be able to talk to somebody all over the world. But they also they also take the internet connection that you have, for example, and even if your internet connection is bad, they'll make the image sharper using the computer. And so what we really try to focus on is how can we allow computers to do the boring tasks? How can we have data do a task that's boring, it's repetitive, it's not something that I think anybody would consider to be fascinating or motivating? That way, the employees in your company, the humans in your company, can do really unique, interesting, fascinating, and impactful work. So we work with companies in all industries. We tend to think about AI as a little bit like electricity. You know, there was a world before electricity, and then it came in, and there sure is an energy industry, but electricity also sort of permeated every industry. And I was watching a great Johnny Carson clip from, you know, when Carson was on the Tonight Show, and he had this really old farmer on. And he asked this farmer, well, what's the biggest difference in farming between now and when you were a kid and you were raised on the farm? And he had this great joke. The crowd loved it. He said, well, it was electricity, of course. Well, we feel the same way about artificial intelligence. It kind of goes into every industry, and it doesn't have to save the world. It doesn't have to do anything really crazy. But if it saves your team 10, 15, 20 hours per week, boy, that makes such a big difference.
What are your passion projects right now?
Right now, my passion projects are actually going on inside of my business. So we have one right now where we are coaching entrepreneurs on how they can use AI in their business. And what's really interesting is not necessarily looking at how AI specifically fits into their business, but it's looking at the whole breadth of, well, what's happening in the AI space right now. That's really, really, really interesting. What's happening in the technology space right now? That's really, really, really interesting. And that could possibly affect you. Another one that I have that I'm really interested in right now is sort of the geopolitics area. And so looking at, well, what's happening all across the world? How are different governments responding to not only the pandemic, but also to other kind of economic events, global events, societal events? And so I'm doing a lot of learning, which I just absolutely love. I'm doing a lot of teaching, which I just love. And then on the side, playing the piano.
It's fun that the traditional piano, never dies, even though technology progresses, and it's good to hear. I love listening to the pianos within the homes. So let me roll.
There's something so meditative about it.
Let me roll a little bit forward, and let's talk about when I look at recently I bought a stereo receiver. Okay, and the stereo says this is compatible with this smart home. I think it was Jason AI or something along the line, but Justin or Jason, but something that talked about a platform that was then helping homes to become smarter. There's a lot of individuals working on different software platforms, and so in collaborating together, and of course, in order to make that work, you need the glue of someone like yourself to build in. Who are your partners that you like to work with, and what types of AI projects you like to focus on? Where your sweet spot is for the business?
So we like to work with entrepreneurial companies. These are companies where, the founder is still leading the business. They've probably been in business for 15, 20 years. And they really want to grow, both personally and professionally. The founder is really excited about growing. But there's a little bit of a lack of clarity in terms of, well, how did they do it? How can we grow? Especially one thing that we find a lot is a founder really wants to build their business. They want to 10 times or 100 times their business, but they can't possibly bear the idea of 10 timesing or 100 timesing their payroll. So they don't want to grow their team 100 times. They're certainly open towards hiring more people, but they don't want to grow their team 100 times. And so we love working with those types of entrepreneurs who are really looking to change not only the world around them, but the world overall. And our focus is really on automating business processes. So a thing that I've noticed about me through my family, through becoming a unique individual, was I really have a low tolerance for doing the same thing twice. I really enjoy doing a thing once and discovering how it works, and then kind of never doing it again. And so we want to take that mentality into businesses and say, well, maybe this repeatable task that's not really that creative, it's not really that exciting. Nobody's ever woken up in the morning and said, boy, I can't wait to get to work and do the exact same thing that I've done for the last 40 years and have absolutely no change. We want to really automate those types of tasks.
So when you're working on this, and again, that AI term is a very broad spectrum. Would you classify yourself as a software provider, or as a service company?
A service company. I tend to think of software providers as more software as a service. We built one piece of software and we're going to sell it a whole lot of times, and it's going to do one thing really, really well, or two things really, really well. We tend to focus more on an individual business, and really, how can we solve your specific problem instead of trying to solve one problem that we think a lot of people might have.
So in other words, you're looking at using their current system and collaborating that with AI on the market, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So why did you get into the AI space?
I didn't want to do the same thing twice. And regardless of your feelings on Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg had just a fantastic quote. At least I thought it was a fantastic quote. So At the time that he said this, they were scaling the business really rapidly. This was kind of in the hyper growth period of Facebook. And he was asked, how do you feel about not being a software developer anymore? And he said, well, something that's very interesting is computers do the same thing, or do exactly what you tell them every time, no matter what. If they make a mistake, it's because you told them to make that mistake. He said humans do not. And I love working with humans. I have a fantastic team. I absolutely love the people that I work with. I love our collaborators. I love our clients. But there are some tasks that you want to be repeatable. You know, you don't want anybody to necessarily be a hero at the water treatment facility. Predictability there is pretty valuable. And so I want to be able to help people just do the repeatable, the predictable, and allow a lot of their business to run on autopilot. That way more employees can do creative, fascinating, motivating work.
How do you stay competitive in this field?
Solve problems, really help your clients. The field is still, we're in the bottom of the first inning, I think, in artificial intelligence. There's a long way to go, not only on the research front, but also in kind of the productionalization, the commercialization of it. And a lot of businesses right now are trying all sorts of different business models. I think it'll still be another 5, 10, 15 years before we find out exactly what the field is supposed to be and before it really matures. But the most important thing is solve really big problems for clients, and they tend to come back.
Has your business demand changed since the pandemic?
It has. The pandemic has, I think, accelerated a lot of trends that we already thought were going to happen. And the reason why is because I hear a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners overall say, well, wow, you know, it's really easy for me to fire my employees when it's over Zoom because I don't have this awkward conversation in the office and all sorts of things. And my response to them is always, well, if you think it's really easy for you to fire your employees, wait till you see how easy it is for them to quit. And what's happening is people need to be able to provide their employees more interesting, fascinating work. They need to be able to provide their employees, especially their younger employees, which really value significance, who really value making a difference in their world or in the world. They want to be able to do things that use their brain in really critical, interesting capacities. And so artificial intelligence isn't something that we necessarily think replaces jobs. We think it just makes them more interesting.
You know, I've noticed that there's a wide breadth of competency in the field of AI. The longer a person's been in the workforce, the more resistant they are to adoption of technology. And then these younger generation, they grew up with it. How do you get rid of all this confusion in an organization, especially when it's senior management making the decisions, saying, well, we're not sure what AI is, so we'll resist putting it in. How do you move forward with that?
Well, the first answer is carefully. But I think it's a clarity generates confidence sort of thing. So once they see how it's being used in the world, once they see how it can make the customer experience better or the user experience better than it is right now, I tend to think that minds open up a bit more. An example that I just recently experienced was I had to call Apple support. My phone wasn't working, and I had to call Apple support, and I had an artificial intelligence answer the phone. Now, typically, I really don't like those sort of phone trees. Press 9 for this, press 8 for this. You have to listen to all of the options. The phone call takes 40 times as long as it should, and you end up just kind of rage clicking the 0 button to hopefully hit an operator, right? Well, this artificial intelligence was so strong, it was so smart, that I actually solved the entire question that I had just through that. I was able to speak in full sentences. It knew immediately what I was asking about. It told me the answer. It was able to do it all in real time, and I had no wait.
Evan, so person wanting to engage you for services, number one, how do they find you?
Absolutely. So Teammate, TEAMMATEAI.com. You can find our website. And if you fill out the form there, either I or a member of my team will respond to you.
Where are you physically located?
Columbus, Ohio.
Oh my God.
Go Buckeyes.
Okay. So, and you have clients throughout the world, or?
All over, yeah. Yeah, so we're working in Europe, we're working in South America right now, of course in North America and in Asia.
Evan, it's been a pleasure having you with us today on American Dreams.
Thanks, Alan. Had a wonderful time.
I've been visiting here today with Evan Ryan, and for more information or to reach out to Evan, reach him at hi@teammateai.com. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.